Record big time.
Great. Got
Any
it.
anything we need.
No, I think I'm ready to roll. I'm gonna come hard in the beginning with a quick segment and ready to roll.
Okay. That sounds good. All right. Hello and welcome, everybody. We got week 8 in the books for BAM 9. This is your weekly debrief. Last we saw you, we were in Mexico. Now we are in equally beautiful places in around the Chicago land. We've got drama to recap. We've got wild games to recap. I mean, I think you had some personal things going on in Mexico, but I mean, there were more significant life events through this league that were going on. So we'll talk through all of this stuff. How you doing, man?
I'm great, but for the sake of getting everyone involved and wanting to watch this, we're gonna jump right into a quick segment, and that is a segment that I haven't even thought of the name, and we're gonna stick with that. It's called Beer Season, and it calls for a nice stout. This is the first stout of the season. Normally, I would like the temperature to be below 45 degrees, but my goodness, did we bring back the nice weather? So I am going to have this nice Goose Island Phase 3 bourbon barrel stout collab that's just got my mouth watering. So
we got a little bit of that ASMR on your next pour, so you're gonna have to drink some of that fast. We'll get it to the mic. That looks beautiful, and also, I mean, that 50 degree, that's kind of where you want to be hanging out when you're going diesel.
I agree. So here's the deal. I'm gonna get my serious music going. We had a great week last week. Everyone knows from the pod, everyone knows from the text. It was a fantastic time. Can you hear me okay? Is this not overpowering?
It's coming in super choppy. So just take the phone and place it near the mic just so I know what's happening.
Okay. So in the middle of the weekend, we had a big trade deadlines coming up. That is expected. But this isn't a knock on vetoes per se, just a knock on the energy around them. We've had 2 vetoes now in 2 years. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, but just the energy around it. There's a lot of negativity around it. So I just want to make a couple points.
And before you make points,
on the vetoes, yes.
Get that thing out of the mic. It's chopping you up. All
right. Just while you listen to this, play some serious YouTube music. So here's the deal. I'm walking down, about to get married, down the aisle, and I look over to my right side. Brendan Shays showing me his phone that a trade has been vetoed. It's all I could think about. Luckily, my beautiful bride showed up, and my thoughts moved to her, thankfully, during my wedding. But here's the deal: we had a veto. I'm not going to talk about my opinion on the actual trade that got vetoed and good or bad, fair or not. Buy me a beer sometime and we can talk about it. I'll be glad to. This is the reasons for vetoing, and this is what I want to stress. And again, this is my opinion, but I think it's good for the league to only veto trades that you believe are unfair. And again, my opinion, but I think it's good for the league. 3 reasons that I know have come up that trades have not gone, or people have vetoed for. Number 1 is because people are loading up on picks for next year. Here's my thing. Trading has consequences. Diesel guys, huge week last week. Got the first double winner of the league, which, by the way, is a BAMS record. Yeah, BAMS record. So that was week 8 it took to get the repeat winner. Congratulations, Diesel guys. However, if Marianne's now chip shoulders, I love that.
Yep.
If Marianne chip shoulders didn't trade away for draft picks, Mari Cooper, Diesel guys doesn't win that. There's consequences to trading. There's good and bad. I don't know why as any competitive team, you wouldn't want teams to start trading away picks, increasing your odds of $50. I love it. When I see people trying to sell off, great. One less team I got to worry about. Okay, that's one thing. Okay, draft picks. They don't equal greatness. Yeah. Another thing. Freaking trade away all your go get a ton of picks. This isn't an indictment on you, but you had one of the best setup drafts this year, and you're in the lower half of points right now.
Yeah.
People are good because of what they do during the season. I could have all the picks in the world. Go look at the draft board and see how many injuries there are right now. Draft picks don't guarantee anything. Again, if I see someone doing that and I'm competitive, great. Like I don't rely on the draft as that much, and I don't think it's it could help out, but I don't think it is a guaranteed lock.
Yeah, so, I think that's a common observation is like, and it's kind of made up metric, but that like, and it all depends. But if you're in a competitive league, something like 10% or 20% of your team's success hinges on your draft versus the moves you are making within the year and how meticulous you are on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, I got a lot of time in December. I like to play an activity of look at my team I drafted versus my team now.
Yeah.
It's a fun game, and it's literally not literally, but it's a fragment. It's a
fraction.
Fraction. Yeah, that's wrong too, but that's what I was looking for. But, words. Yeah, it's always different. So win during the season. Maybe you get a good draft, but win during the season. And if someone wants to trade draft picks, as I'm a competitive guy, I'm not going to veto something because they're trading a bunch of draft picks. Also, I traded Groley earlier in the season, and I feel like if that would have happened today, it would have been under the microscope more. So there's consistency issues there. Anyway, two other reasons to not veto draft picks. Because maybe someone wants to just veto any trade that goes through. Maybe someone wants to trade for that person that's going to in that trade, and they want to trade it for them, so they're going to veto it. Not valid. That's all I'm going to say. I don't want vetoes to become commonplace for the wrong reasons. They can become commonplace if it's necessary. If a trade is unfair, which happens, veto the hell out of it. So anyway, just want to make a point. We are in a good spot with BAMS, and vetoes are great. I don't want to knock the veto process, but do it for the right reasons. That's all I got.
This is a little bit of like The Bachelor. Like, is this trade here for the right reasons? And I
didn't tell you I was going to come with any of this. So
I'm ready to. Yeah, yes. Hey, I'm always ready to run.
Okay.
It's so tough because you want to empower trades. I think it's kind of like you want that free market and not wanting to stop people from doing what they feel is in their best interest. So you don't want to stop anybody from proposing a trade, but then it raises the question of like, should we be governing or stopping anybody from vetoing a trade? I kind of look at it in terms of like what is in the individual's best interest. I think it makes the league more fun to have more trades going on. I agree with the sentiment of like, unless you think something fishy is going on, let it go. But like also calling out that I have acted completely selfishly on like two really big trades this year, where it was like for your trade, it was I was playing you that week, so you were about to acquire 3 huge players, and I was like, well, I get a vote, so I'm going to act in my best interest, and I'm going to try to veto this trade because I don't want Zintek to get 3 studs against me this week. Flip side, funny enough, and that one went through. Flip side is that this trade that got vetoed, I was like, please let this trade go through because I am playing the team that is trying to trade away their players. So like, I guess it really just depends on like where you're at, but I definitely do agree with the overall sentiment of like, unless it directly impacts you that week, which is already kind of like a scumbag move, the 2 things I just talked about, but I'm just being honest. And then, or you think it's like just not fair But this trade here, and I know you didn't want to get into the nitty gritty of it, but it's more of like, I think we could at a high level say it was fairly even draft value for player value. Like I didn't perceive it to be an outrageous imbalance of value that was being traded. It was more, and I mean, this is my take, is like, I do think it is a consequence of, I'm sure if I tried last year, for instance, to like make a third trade of trying to stockpile picks, people might have been like, oh, I see what he's doing. He's trying to get like 2 picks in every single round. I'm sick of this guy. Veto. Like, I think there's validity to that like people just they've begun to vilify you because it's become so transparent what your motives are. I totally agree that like it's all going to come out in the wash over time, and it's going to weaken teams one year, make teams stronger the next year. It doesn't guarantee you're going to be great the next year, all that stuff. But like, I think in the same way we want to empower people to make trades, I think there has to be some empowering of whether or not people want to veto. But again, this was a tough one, regardless of my self-interest. I was going to struggle ever vetoing that trade because I thought it was not imbalanced.
Okay. And this is why this is a beautiful thing, is because the selfish moves to veto something if you have a game coming up, I do agree with that. But at the same time, if that's why things are being vetoed, I don't think that'll ever go through as a veto. I don't think there's enough people
it
to
is
do that.
Isolated, like
yeah,
very specific to one person.
Right. So, and maybe that is me speaking out of both sides of my mouth by just agreeing to that. But bottom line is, just I don't think it's smart to get comfortable with vetoes.
Yeah.
And I guess I'll leave it with that. And yes, I'm obviously that's as far as this is ever going to get. We're never going to govern anything, but it's just, we're all smart. We start the league with a draft, playing a gentleman's sport of golf. And I would like that to carry over. Just make smart decisions. Don't overdo things. Don't ruin a good thing. We're the best for a reason. And now we have about 7 less minutes to go through everything. Great segment, but I'm going to keep drinking the beer and I'll pour it closer to the microphone next time. So let's get into the quick recap. 1 sentence, 2 sentence recap. You want to start us off while I bring this up? If you have anything up.
It's funny because I was still locked into putting a cap on that conversation.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
And I probably lost my place on it, but just the comedy. Like, I know we want to move on from it, but the comedy was amazing. Just like I actually stayed pretty insulated from it. I wasn't keeping track with what was being discussed. So maybe I have a tone deaf view as to like what went down, but it was just so funny that everything was blowing up just moments before you were walking down the aisle. So I had a segment this week, which was called Bad Commissioner, which is just like, you got to know when to just delay the wedding so that you can step in, mediate, and just like do everybody a solid. So just a lack of leadership that we saw that day. But I guess we'll forgive it. I don't know.
That's okay. Go ahead. Let me know when you're done, because I got 2 points. I got 2 points to close it out.
Go.
Okay. So the 1 point is, just for anyone that wasn't there, I think there was 3 of us that were in the tiny hotel room that they gave us to get ready. Imagine just a small double queen typical hotel room with like 10 guys in there trying to get ready. We were just like sitting shoulder to shoulder on a bed, like looking over the other side, be like, Girlie, did you see what happened? And he's just like, yeah, I know. Like, there's just not a lot of talk because like people are hungover as it is. There's quiet. There's not a lot going on. And then this happens and we're all just on our phones watching it. Just, I'm waiting to get married.
a silent hungover, nervous room and just buzzing in our pockets.
And Kygo's playing on the computer. And I got photographers trying to get my attention to take pictures when I'm just awkward as hell. The second point I wanted to make was Shay did not do that while I walked down showing me a phone about anything, but that I just wanted not to slander him there. All right, I'm good on that. Are we good to move on?
We're going to move on. Just because you mentioned his name, we'll get into recaps and unless you wanted to recap your matchup. Nope. It's more I just want to lament that I can't use Shay's heaters this week. But I also wanted to give credit to Shay for being very generous with his heaters in Mexico. We're having a great time on the beach. We're in paradise, and Shay just turns to myself and my wife and is like, I'm just going to go up to my room real quick, have a smoke. You guys want to come? Which, like, if it was anybody else, that would have been creepy, but it wasn't, because it's Shay, who's just the sweetest man in the world. And we had a great time just hanging out on his balcony. And awesome. I never rip heaters, but if I'm with Shay, I'm ripping heaters. So it was a great time. But no heaters for Shay this week, as you topple him by a 15-point margin. Overcoming your continued QB woes with Derek Carr putting up 2.94.
Wait, let's.
Is it the last 3 weeks that your QBs are averaging like 3.5 points?
Okay, way more than 2 weeks. So 2.94. 13 1 week.
Oh, okay.
4, 6, 13, 8. And that was after I got my 28 point from Carson Wentz 18 years ago.
There you go. So you overcome there with less than 3-point output from Carr, but then it was T. Higgins in the absence of Chase, Jamar Chase. Amon-Ra St. Brown just continuing to be solid. Stephon Diggs. We talked about this when we did the power rankings last week. Just killers at the wide receiver position. Mostert is in that weird spot. I think Miami just picked up Jeffrey Wilson Jr. probably just as a backup, but like not shining. But that's fine, because as part of your trade, you got Travis Etienne, who is in that. He's in that spot of like, he's a small guy that's being used so much, and you're just going to take the good weeks he gives you until he gets injured. But until he does that, he's giving you like 20 plus every week, just getting fed. And then George Kittle, 11, Dameon Pierce, who looked like a freak last night on Thursday Night Football. It's just a nasty team. DeAndre Swift chilling on your bench. So there's just a lot to like on this roster. Only 109 points for the week, but clearly enough to beat out Shay for the week. And, we'll see how this goes moving forward. But I mean, Shay's number one fan is talking on this mic right now. So hoping for some things to turn around.
Love it. I'm going to talk about Grohl versus you, and I'm going to jump around here while I do that, because my other screen went dark and I need to see the spreadsheet, and we're back. My next thing in the matchup in the line is you versus Grohl's. Hardo Grohl's. Big thing here is you offset Jalen Hurts 28 points with Amani Brown 34.4 points. That was huge in your 127. That's got to be one of the biggest weeks of a wide receiver this year. And keeping on the topic of wide receivers, Grohl's. Pittman has struggled this year, 10, 11 points last week. Renfro, 1 point. Wan'Dale Robinson, 3 points. And Allen Robinson, 8 points. So that was the big deciding factor. He had 95 points, which is probably average, if not higher than average, the last few weeks. No, it's not average, but it's not horrible. It's pretty in line with what we've been doing as a league. But anyway, 126-95, 30-point win. Big time for you. You're not in the top 6. Oh no, we talked about this already. You're number 7 right now in total points, but again, it's still not.
I was first 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, you were.
44-point week. 44-point week was bad.
Right. Okay. So goes fantasy football.
This triggers a bonus segment, which is called Talking That Shit. So this is this goes to Grohl's, who we're at the Martini Bar, which was like a perfect pre-dinner tradition for us that we quickly kicked off in Cabo. So I'm ripping Negronis, and I'm talking to Grolly, and he's just like snaking the Twitter feed of what's happening in the game. And he's like, Mark Andrews injured immediately. He's going to be out the rest of the game. And then I'm like, don't worry about it. Rashad Bateman, he's going to take the top off the defense. And then like maybe 10 minutes later, I'm like only a few more sips down in my Negroni. And he's like, oh yeah, Bateman's out for the rest of the game too. Like maybe this is maybe I need to start buying. Maybe I need to start building out my team. The run starts now. He's doing all that stuff. And then AJ Brown.
It wouldn't be the first time for him.
So he was feeling good in Cabo. Then we returned back to the States Sunday. AJ Brown just quickly wipes the mat real quick. I'm just gonna throw down a 34.
Yeah.
So there was that, and then also talking that shit is, and it was subtle, but a couple weeks ago, this was after the trade with the baloney squeezes, Grimmer, but I had traded away James Robinson, I had to trade away Keenan Allen to get James Robinson. I then that week was shopping around and being like, I need receivers, and James Robinson had basically been kicked to the curb on the Jags as a running back, where he was getting like 2-3 carries a game. So I clearly was in the losing column of that trade. And Grimmer on the text thread says like, James Robinson for Keenan Allen, basically just being like, want to trade it back? Just kidding, because I won the trade. Ha ha ha. No, sir. Now we look at Keenan Allen, who just hold on. Good. We look at Keenan Allen, who is just never going to play football again. His hamstring is paper mache. And even though James Robinson might only score 2 points a week for the rest of the year, I had to start James Robinson against Grimmer this week with the surprise demotion of Keenan Allen in the clockwork. So that was the bonus segment here, and we could get back to recapping these matchups.
Love it. We're on to you.
Okay, I will jump. We'll go with it. Just a nice, clean, straightforward matchup of the Fiana and Derek's Rad team. Fiana in the power rankings was my number one team, which was maybe a little bit of a surprise to some people. Things have changed for that team since, given the Jamar Chase revelation that happened pretty quickly after our last recording, as well as Cooper Kupp being a little banged up. But, Kupp, 20. Alvin Kamara, who I said, like, he hasn't gotten a touchdown this year. That's going to change soon. It did change quickly. Lamar Jackson still being a stud. And then Kenneth Walker, the third, just still like going to be rock solid rest of the year. Probably going to keep him. He's probably going to have Chase, Walker, and Kupp next year, which is gross. And then just sneaky Miles Sanders again, is that like his running back depth is so freaking good. So Fiana puts up 144 on the week. Was not the top scorer, but got close to it. We'll get to that in a coming matchup here. Derek's Rad team still not changing that name. So 116 for him, even though it was a decent week in scoring, was not able to get it done. And I look down the line, and it's a lot of just like low double digits across the board. So solid performance for Derek's Rad team. Really the standout being Ramondre Stevenson, who is a stud. So that should be looking like a keeper for Derek's Rad team. I would guess like a 5th or 6th rounder that he gets to keep. So looking good for next year. But Derek's Rad team, that we say really is not a very bad roster. They just cannot win games. And that's the problem.
No, and I got a quick segment. It's called I Gotta Say. Derek was the last person to be in Cabo with Sam and I this week, and we shared a nice cigar cubano in front of the fire. It was funny. There was a guy playing a guitar the whole time, and we're not supposed to smoke cigars there. And we were just blowing them, and it just kept blowing him in this guy's face as he's playing guitar for like 20 people, and it was really funny. But anyway, spoke about his vision on his fantasy team, and I'm not going to go into details. Obviously, this is private. It's a private conversation, but I just got to say I like his vision and where the team's going, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see them competing in the playoffs this year. So anyway, my dog's staring at me in the window outside. He's confused as to why he can see me. But next matchup is the Marianne, formerly known Hammocks, the Marianne Chip Shoulders versus King of T Hill.
They changed it.
They changed it. I like it. Derek, take notes. Love the passion of King and Ting Hill this week with the trade and defending his trade, which it was great. And it was
just nicest guy in the league too. Just the best.
Yes. Double negative for him though, because he had a great week, but he lost. So sorry. My takeaway here is how things can really click for a team, even if you sell off a little bit. Marianne Hammock's chip shoulders acquired some picks. At the same time, you pick up Geno Smith, who's clicking right now. You have Damon Moore from the Carolina Panthers, who now is the only option for them. So he's going to score for the rest of the season. McCaffrey, same trade, same product. Is this the game where he threw, caught, and kicked for a touchdown? Yes. And then you got Thomas Pollard, who is subbing in for Ezekiel Elliott. So I just want to say that Hammocks is going to compete, and they might be low on the standings right now. That dog.
I'll fill.
That dog was just outside, just sprinted down here.
Yeah, that's amazing. Oh,
yeah,
he's a good boy.
Yeah. What do you want to say? ASMR. Anyway, that's the matchup. So
ASMR.
Right. Okay, that's the matchup there. So before I delay anymore, what do you got for the next matchup?
We're going to go to the Diesel guys with, yes, as we talked about, the back-to-back winning weeks, but we're talking in terms of the top scorer. So back-to-back top scorer, $50 bills in his pocket, back-to-back weeks. This team is surging. He's in the he's like Groles, and they're just the two Spider-Men pointing at each other in terms of how much they care and how much they hawk that waiver wire, and they just make great personnel decisions. So Diesel guys, I know they've had an up and down season, but we kind of knew even after the first few weeks when he didn't have the best record, we were like, he's scoring. This team is good. So Diesel guys, once again, so a 154 against the Gangbang, who put up a 87. And if I'm not mistaken, the Gangbang, despite getting beat this week 154 to 87, they still are atop the standings in the league. They are still the number one team in the league standings. So Diesel guys, it was just all things Dallas beating up on Chicago. So having Dak Prescott was big. DeAndre Hopkins, who's I think either 1 or 2 weeks back into the mix. Waddle on Miami, where as long as their quarterbacks aren't getting concussed mid-game, they're like a top 3 offense in the league. So Waddle continuing to go nuts. Deontay Foreman, we're talking waiver wire ads. He's running like a man, and that Chuba Hubbard injury has just kept things even more wide open in that backfield for the team you're talking about in the Panthers of when you're referencing DJ Moore, PJ Tucker, breathing life into that team where he was, I think, QB3 heading into the year behind Mayfield and Darnold. Now they're actually clicking, and he's like a viable quarterback, and this team's surging. So being attached to that is huge as well. Saquon being Saquon. So it's just a pretty nasty team. And so that is a win there for the Diesel guys, and I don't see them stopping anytime soon.
No, we talk about them, how they've been competitive all year, even if they were in 8th, 9th place a few weeks ago. Looking at the most total point standings right now, it's the Rins at the top. It's Fiana at 988, Diesel guys at 924. Bigger spread than we've seen at 64 points, but right behind him is King of T Hill. So you got that going right now. Gangbang, Shaysky, Marianne's Hammocks in the top 6 right now. So again, keep an eye out for them. And then I'm just going to stick with this just because we transitioned, or we went off on a tangent here. But unlucky, Derek's team jumped into first. Me, Commissioner, fell back a little bit, and then you got Gangbang right there. So just a little sprinkle on the cake for those guys, keeping it close. And that is my tangent for there. So we don't have to cover that in a little bit. So we have one more recap here, unless you had anything more on that Diesel
One more
game?
to go, and I'm going to put us on a 10-minute shot clock. I think we're going to fly through the rest of this here.
No, we'll go sentence here. Bologna squeeze, Tottenham Spurs. Bologna squeeze has a team that I don't like. Tyler Boyd, Dobbs, CeeDee Lamb. They all had competent games, but I don't think they're consistent performers. James Conner didn't even score. Kyle Pitts has been miserable, but he scored a touchdown. So 118 point, not horrible, a good week, considering. But you got Spurs too, who didn't have a horrible week, 102 points. But Pickens didn't score anything. Najee sucks. Taylor is out now. He had 5 points. Hurst, yeah, it just. I don't think they're the two greatest teams, but you get another win out of the Bologna squeezes, and my goodness, they're 6-2. So you can't.
I was going to say they have a good record. I'm playing them this week, and just elaborating on what you were saying, like they are being put through the ringer in terms of they had to drop Michael Thomas because that guy hates playing football. Got surgery on his toe. Ezekiel Elliott with his injury. Alan Lazard working through, I think, a shoulder. The aforementioned Keenan Allen and his hamstring. So it's just like he's been dropping guys. I think he's got James Conner. It is tough sledding for that guy right now. Grimmer's just trying to battle through it. And I guess if you're gonna have to work through some injuries, 6-2 record is gonna help you take on some of the weight in the short term.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we're gonna do waiver wire. I don't think we have a ton. We talked about the only thing I wanted to talk about was Growley picking whoever it was up on the beach last week when he was trying to get a signal and the news came out. I forget who it was at the time, but I did talk about it on the pod last week, so it's not worth spending time on. There were a lot of moves this week. The trade, we talked about that. I don't know, does anything stick out? I don't know if you looked at it at all. Van Jefferson, he hasn't done anything. Tony, that's who it was. Girls picked up Kadarius Toney. Got that name right.
Great work there.
Anyway, we'll get into it next week if any of these really pan out. But I think we're just on who is going to pass away this week.
True. I'll try to hit anything big there. Renfro has been passed around.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Palmer was a big pickup, but like they're not like, it's weird. They're being weird about him coming back from his concussion. So it's just like, I don't know who is playing for the Chargers. Keenan Allen dead. Mike Williams dead. Josh Palmer with the concussion. We got Eckler with an abdomen that's kicking up right now.
Their tight end.
Plug Gerald Everett.
Out.
No one wants to play for the Chargers. So if you want to pick up Sony Michel this week, think about it.
Josh Palmer might have a good game, but they're probably going to have 4 players covering him because there's no one else to cover.
But yeah, all good stuff. I did think it was funny that when the Keenan Allen news came out, I mean, we're talking minutes after the reveal, Diesel guys on a free agent ad get DeAndre Carter, who is the slot receiver to replace Keenan Allen. A little stocky dude, little bowling ball, but very explosive. He's a guy that like celebrates really big after like 10-yard catches. So you think he's like 10 times better than he is. But he's a guy. He's going to be, he can run and catch.
I gotta say, I had a severe case of BAMSiety all week because on at least 5 different occasions, I've seen players picked up that I've never heard of. And I'm just like, it's my wedding week. I'm missing out on something.
You're slipping.
I've never heard of these guys. And yeah, so again, it's testament to the league. I think, I'm sure things will work out for those guys. But I just did not pay attention to that. So again, my BAMSiety. You like that?
I really like that.
You didn't react the first time, so I wanted to repeat myself.
I gave we'll have to check the tape if I reacted.
Fine. We'll talk later. Yeah. Okay. So now we are on who's gonna die this week.
Which I queued this up real quick. Okay. So
that's good. That's
I have to throw a curveball at you because I've done little homework. I have to start with running back Austin Eckler. If he is out there, they're going to throw him the ball 25 times and he has to die. Mm-hmm. So this is probably the biggest layup of the year. Austin Eckler, if he's nursing an abdomen thing that kicked up on a Thursday, he's going to try to be a tough guy, battle through it, put the team on his back. It's going to be too much for him to carry. Here we go.
All right, I'm going to match you with a vulnerable running back in Jimmy Connor.
I don't hate that playing against him this week.
If he doesn't play, Joe Mixon, just because he's the next guy on this team, the baloney squeezes that's I'm looking at. But yeah, if James Conner plays, he's my running back to not live by the end of the game. Okay, quarterbacks.
Yeah, why don't you start us off here?
Okay, Justice Fields. There's no way I'm going to have a good game at the quarterback, and I'm starting him. So he's going to have a good game if he plays the whole game, but I think he gets hurt. I think there's a hamstring. I think he gets cocky because it's gonna be a very high scoring game. There's gonna be a lot of action. I'm actually excited to watch a Bears game for the first time in a very long time. But that's just, how it goes. I was thinking about it as I was doing something today and how I never had any success with a Bears player on my team in fantasy football. And I don't think it starts this weekend. So I'm playing him. I hope not, because, I like him and, hope he does well. We don't ever want injuries. But yeah, he's going down, hamstring.
He's entering a fun category, which begs the question, as soon as things get fun in Chicago, is that when it's going to end? So I like the call, but I am rooting for him to just, not get injured. And I like when you are picking dudes off the scrap heap and getting production. So he has, I think, been like quarterback 2 the last 2 weeks or something like that. Yeah. So, all right, I'm going to go.
Hi, that's what they say, right?
Yeah. I'm going to go with Joe Burrow. With Jamar Chase getting knocked out, this team has looked very rigid, just not a dynamic team. I was famous last year being like, you got to fire Zach Taylor, and then they fucking made it to the Super Bowl. So I had to eat my words there, but like, you lose a top 5 receiving talent like Chase, and it could be revealing some things. And I think any team that has a pass rush, it's just like Burrow's just going to get hit 15 times. So we're going with Burrow, who I love, but I'm sorry, it pains me. Got to pick him this week.
Yeah, no, I don't hate it. I do for my team with T. Higgins, but I don't hate the prediction. Okay, my quarterback is oh wait, no, you had quarterbacks from wide receivers. My goodness is intact. Who did you just have for your wide receiver? Do you have wide receiver in your mind?
Yeah, I'll keep things easy here.
Yeah,
we'll go Mike Evans. This is going to be like the saddest game of all time. Like, I think it was meant to be. Yeah, it's the late afternoon game. And I think Fox like cleared the schedule to be like, going into the season, this is going to be an insane game. You got the Rams and the Bucks playing each other. And they're just like two of the saddest teams. So I think the sadness translates into the injury luck. And that's where we get Mike Evans, who does love to get, he loves the hammy. He loves it. And he fights through it. He's a dog. I love him. He'll high point some balls, but it won't, like, it'll knock him out of the game. He'll be back next week, but I think that's a guarantee that the sadness bleeds into this game.
Yeah, that hamstring is never healthy, despite what he says. Great pick. You've had very high percentage picks this week, and I'm afraid of it. You know who hasn't scored since week 1 is Justin Jefferson.
Jefferson's got it. Wow, that's wild.
He hasn't scored since week 1.
Dead?
I haven't heard from him, and I'm going to hear from this week, but it's because he's going to get hurt.
I like that. He's making news in a different way.
Yeah. Oh, jump ball, ankle. Yeah. More like, no, I got nothing. I was going to make a joke about I was going to make a joke about the gritty and, but an injury and not good. We're not finishing strong here. I blame the beer.
That's fine. We got 10 seconds anyways.
Oh, you're right. Less than a minute. Okay. We're done, right?
Yep. We're done. Okay. We love you guys.
We love you guys. Have a great weekend. Hopefully it cools down a little bit so you can enjoy these a little better, but they will be enjoyed regardless. So love you. Welcome back to Chicago, and things are great.